Good. Yes, remind Deborah to record. At some point we decided like we should be getting together once a week to check in on things and stay in tune with Dave and David and keep on this. And that settled for a bit. And then we had all the conversations about a sale proposal and 2 joint ventures. And we met with some of the joint venture people. Deborah and I have talked with Dave and David I don't know what day that was. Last Monday? On Monday, something. And a lot of conversation was happening. We talked to the region. The region feels like they're on board now, I think. They've got our backs and they're willing to dance and see this through with us. So that's good. We've talked to Trinity, who said, oh, okay, maybe we can do some thinking and considering our future as partners or see what happens. Deborah and I both felt that that's a long process that will happen kind of simultaneously with the Dave and David stuff, along with all the partnerships with Grandmother's Voice and the others. And Deborah, you and I kind of said the work that we do and the decision that we make on sale, joint venture, move, stay, go, etc. Deborah and I felt like this is in our court for us to consider here, now, this week, this month, to the point that she and I have even discussed what it takes to call a congregational meeting. If you folks have a recommendation to make to the board. And that takes a couple of weeks to put out the information so people can think about it and be prepared to vote. So that's kind of where we are. And with her leaving on Sunday, we sort of felt, where is the will of the board at the moment to dig in on these and get to a comfort zone around making a decision? Or potentially you could ask Dave and David to put this off for a little while, but I think that bears some careful consideration because we've done a lot of work up to this point. So Deborah, I'll let you jump in on that point.
I think we have to decide whether we're selling or we want a joint venture. I think that's the big decision we have to make. And there's really no reason. I think we have all the information we need.
Yeah.
We can't wait for the other churches. I think they are interested and want to keep having conversations, but they're not on our timeline at all. It's going to take time. Kent just shared with me an email he got from St. John's and their past chair, John, and one other person would like to, wait a minute. So John Ball, the past chair, and Fred Hayward, their current chair, would like to have a conversation next week. So I'm hoping maybe somebody else can also go with Kent, either Tuesday, Thursday, or Friday night. So anyway, those are great conversations to be having, but I don't think they affect the decision that we need to make today or soon, whether we want to stay put or whether we want to sell.
Was there any other joint proposals? It was just the one? I thought there was another one coming.
There were 2
for sale.
And that's important. Yeah, that's important too, because Deborah and I had a good chance to talk with David Chong about his feelings on them. The folks that the group of us met with the week before, Deborah, maybe you remember the specifics, but David Chong saw red flags in several places and really, given the options, he felt the sale was a really valuable proposal to consider, and the new joint venture where we haven't talked to them yet, but can't remember, Melrose, I think, was a joint venture to consider. So either the sale or the Melrose joint venture. He had some strong reservations about the group that we talked to.
Yeah.
I just had 2 questions in terms of keeping up to date. Is one, like the letter from Horseshoe Region, which was quite distressing. You're saying that after you met with them, there's no hard no on anything?
We're all good. Yeah,
we're all their hard no stuff was just talk.
In reading that letter, and I've worked on that committee. In reading that letter, it was very specifically about a closing congregation, one that was going to cease to exist. So that was where a hard no exists.
Okay,
Everything beyond that, they realize that we're kind of creating new territory, and everybody agrees that every combination of churches that comes up with a new idea is doing a new thing. There's no
Okay,
template,
okay.
there's no pattern.
so then
And
the joint venture is a goal for us if that's what we chose.
yeah, there are
Yeah,
some
okay, yeah.
restrictions around who holds property. You know,
Yes.
for example, we don't technically own it. So in a sense, they are the ones selling the property.
Well,
a-
if it's a joint venture, they don't want us to sell it. They want the cut property to reside with the United Church, not the developer.
In the
Right.
joint venture. That's what I was read in the note, yeah.
Yeah.
Just trying to understand what are our,
But they recognize that this is a new territory and there are creative ways to do this. And I think they seem to trust, I mean, they've met Trinity Center Foundations before as well. We may reach out to Kindred Works for some input at this point, but they were prepared to work with everybody in good faith because they could see that we were all understanding the big picture.
so there's nothing, there's no road that we would go down that it is likely that they would say, no, you can't do that. You're saying that the United,
Anything we
would-
do will run by the region to
Right.
be put together before we take it to the congregation.
But
So
if
we
one of
won't
the
be
things is
presenting
that-
anything to a congregation that can't be approved.
if one of the things is that the property needs to remain, if we did a joint venture, that the property needs to remain owned by the United Church, then we don't want to talk about anything else. If that's the only possibility, like you don't want to get into a discussion about whether that will or will not happen with a joint venture partner potentially, if that's what you're doing, right? That's all. I mean, there's no, don't want to go down a path where there's no hope.
Right.
And my second question was just what had ever happened with writing to the various potential partners that we talked about several weeks ago.
The survey?
The questions that were sent to them, asking them blah, blah, blah,
Yeah.
like trying to assess how serious.
Yeah,
they are
I have
as
not heard yet about the survey. I haven't heard back from Kendra about the survey yet. So it was Kendra that sent it out, right? And I think she said she was giving them a week to respond. So I don't
It's
know.
well over a week ago, yeah.
I was going to say, and you've talked to a couple of them, like Harold's talked to House of Dulce, and so that's an interesting question. We
Well,
should,
they're renting property, but didn't he say that they would be treated just like a renter? Because that's at this point what they're doing. Is simply
For now,
renting.
yeah.
Yeah. No, just in thinking about it all, it's nice to have a few of the pieces in place.
When I was thinking about it too, I was thinking, so if we decide joint ventures we want, it's gonna take a long time for something to happen, right? All the permissions, the architects, design, all that, it's gonna take years.
Yeah,
We have lots of time to build our partnerships or with these folks or with others. And if we sell, we can also tell the people who are buying the property that we want to stay on the property until they are ready to build. So in that case, we would also
might
have
be
time.
5 years, yeah.
I mean, they have the right to say no, but there are reasons that they would consider that.
It wouldn't
help.
make much sense for them to leave it vacant for that many years, right? So.
Right, yes, that makes sense, yeah.
Liability might be the question, but on the flip side, an empty property has its risks. So it's hard. Yeah, they have a choice, but we can certainly ask.
And when we were talking about sale compared to joint venture, my sense from David was that there are far more risks associated with a joint venture than there are with an outright sale.
There are far more what?
Risks.
Risks.
He basically said that. He's trying to say that he can't give us an opinion, he can't suggest what we do, but the way that he talked
Mhm.
made it sound as though with a sale, you are eliminating a bunch.
When
Did
I
nobody
talked to
else hear
David-
that, or-
Yeah, when
Hmm?
we talked to David, I kind of got that sense too, that he kind of if we were deciding between these two developers and selling, I think he was leaning towards the selling option.
I was pretty sure that's what he was leaning towards as the cleanest and the one that is least likely to cause grief down the road.
My sense of the Melrose, what he was saying about the Melrose proposal, which was a joint venture, is that group has a long-standing, glitchy, but long-standing understanding of working in Oakville. It involved residential stuff. He felt there was some potential there, and it would be worth talking to them. Definitely more valuable in his eyes than the other group.
Right, for sure.
And selling and redeveloping somewhere else is cleaner. So
I think the underlying piece is it took us 5 years to get the Mance rezoned in Oakville.
Mhm.
And I have never seen anything work so sequentially. Like there was nothing ever done with thought other than this moment. Oh yeah, this moment, like the whole thing was linear, the whole process.
Yeah.
The builders probably have better hopes of getting things than we do. But
I mean, the pandemic probably
Oakville's
slowed it down a
scary.
little bit, but not by much.
yeah,
I think I was thinking about this too in terms of where do we, okay, is our property at 454 Rebecca Street the best place to do the mission that we want to do? That's that's a big question, right? Is that location in Oakville the best place to do our ministry? Or could we do it better elsewhere?
that's a good point,
that's
because
a very good point. Yeah.
doubling down on a joint venture in that location is a long-term commitment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we want to know where the elsewhere is.
Yeah.
But we have time, right? Because we're not going anywhere for a few years, especially if we make this arrangement with the developer to say we'd like to stay on the land for a while until we have to move. So we would have that time. We'd have time to build our partnerships, time to talk to the other churches, and time to find another location that would be suitable.
That's if we're allowed to stay, Deborah. Like,
I know.
So in asking David Chong, what happens if we sell and we have to be out in 6 months? His answer was, there are properties available. We start looking. Rent versus buy is a important question. There is a concept of nesting with another congregation for a while, which may or may not be appealing. Pros and cons. So that's on the horizon as well as an option.
If we were to do that and nest with another congregation, is the region going to have a problem with that though? Does that start to see as a motivation? It doesn't, it wouldn't be seen that way.
No. It might impact how, so the way the region works with the money, because technically they're the landowner, is the money comes into the region in trust and is given out according to some rules and some best sense of mission. So if we had like a bang up, hey, this is the project and we're going to do this, and you can see the clear outline, they might keep a little bit back for Indigenous ministries and a little bit back for mission stuff because that's kind of mandated, but they would give us a really good substantial amount. I'm pretty sure if we're not entirely sure, they may sit on more of it, but know also that our process is ongoing, and they are very pleased that we have reached out and reached out and reached out again to our neighboring churches. So they know this is like a work in progress. So they do have some control over the money. They may sit on some of it in trust. I would not be surprised, but we get a lot of say if we have a good, clear sense of what we're trying to do.
I would think if we had a good, clear sense that, say, we've got years still, and that if we ran out of money, sort of, in a couple of years, that they would release some of it.
If
So that-
we are vibrant and
Like if
doing,
we have a plan,
yeah, if we're
obviously
vibrant and
we have to
doing
have a
good
good
stuff,
plan
they'll keep
and-
us going.
they
Yeah.
would keep us going, yes.
The number of congregations that I have seen come to that that place with 13 people, maybe on a Sunday. And well, we have an important mission because once a year, the Lions Club has a thing in our parking lot. I'm not kidding. Like there are some churches that are just at that point. And a good death is an important thing sometimes, right? For a congregation like that. But when they see like a full house and all ages and activities happening, that's a good thing.
I also think there's a possibility of asking them whether we can like put it into the foundation and or put it somewhere where we could collect interest on it and have that, put that towards our ministry until we need the money.
For sure, yes.
Mhm.
UCC has an investment arm.
Yeah.
And that would be where I would think they would put it as well, like
Mhm,
what they're
yeah.
not using, yeah.
And I think one of the other things that's been on my mind, and this is funny because I've actually been talking a lot, but it's background, is this can't be on my shoulders and it can't be on Deborah's, right? As staff, as ministry, we're part of the conversation, but this really has to be owned by the congregation, and over the long haul, that's where the trust comes in with the congregation. Because they could be in your seat as easily as you are. And so it's your, like Judy's asking the questions, Deborah and I can give you what we know, but it needs to rest with you.
Just the congregation, I don't know what the feel is out there. I don't have a lot of arms into the congregation apart from the board, but I happened to go to this book club with a bunch of older members, and they don't think that selling the property is one of the options even. Like, I don't know what they even hear when we talk. Does anybody else hear anything from what people think? Because they all sat in a room and voted that we would do whatever is best for our mission.
And that was one of the
Whether
options.
that was staying, or isn't that what we all agreed in a room? And
Yep.
and most of them were there.
Yeah. What I'm thinking, Judy, is sorry, I moved you guys to a different screen. Here we go. Now I can look at you. What I've been thinking actually is, well, what is our mission? What actually are we trying to do? Do we remember what we were excited about last fall? And it would be probably good over the next few weeks to bring that back up in worship and remind people, boy, we wanted to be the affirming place. We wanted to be the voice of justice, and et cetera, et cetera. Because when I went back and reread our table talks from especially the first one from the fall, it was like, oh yeah, we were excited. I think we may need to go back to that at this point to stir people up.
I think also that talking to the congregation has to be a very special meeting. Certainly not just a Sunday, but it has to be one where everybody has the opportunity to either dial in or be there to hear the conversation in full, whatever it is we are talking about, to make sure they all
Kind of like
understand.
our affirm vote, where we really encourage
That sort
people
of
to come
thing,
and
yeah.
give them every possibility, and
Every possible way to get involved. Yeah. So Allison, Jeff, Candy, Jen.
Do we give them the option of selling or joint venture, or do we decide ourselves that selling is the best way, and then we go to them and tell them?
but
that's
it would
what
be good to go to them with a recommendation.
Okay,
So
recommendation.
they have
okay.
one thing to focus on.
Okay, so there's no option, so we have to decide ourselves which is the best option for us.
That would be the
Yeah.
best way to do it.
Percent, okay, that makes sense.
Mhm.
I understand that. So what's the best option?
Yep. Well, let me ask the question again. Do we think we can do the ministry we want to do at 454 Rebecca Street?
I don't think
Not
it is
about the-
necessary to
Sorry,
be
Alice, we
here.
can't-
I don't think
Allison, we
it's
can't hear
necessary
you.
to be here.
I said, for me, it's not about the place. It's not
About the mission.
about the yeah, it's not about the location, I guess.
Okay.
I don't even think that it is necessarily the best. If you were looking at Oakville for where best would you locate, it would not necessarily be 454 Rebecca.
Yeah, I mean, the people, the surrounding community, like in the immediate vicinity of our current location aren't necessarily the ones that we are talking about.
No.
You know, there may be a few, but I can't help but look around in the very immediate circle around the church and, seeing massive mansion after massive mansion being built, and that's
Does not
No.
fit.
I don't know that serving people who can afford massive mansions is necessarily part of the mission, at least not in my eyes. And
Their spiritual needs are real and substantial and present, but in my experience, they're not coming looking for community. They want community with their friends in their backyard, or they create it.
they also have the means to travel to
Yeah,
get to that community, and some people do not. So
and sometimes what they need is the ability to give to others. So us creating a space that's easy for them to come to do that is meaningful. Sorry, I didn't, yeah.
yeah, I mean, I guess my reaction to hearing everything over the last several weeks and then this discussion is that I'm much more leaning towards the option of selling the property, simply because we've not received a joint venture proposal that we view as so enticing and to use the phrase slam dunk. Like, there seems to be aversions to everything that we've received, and I certainly trust the expertise and opinions of people like Dave and David who look at these proposals and see this, that, and the other thing, or know these groups, identifying what flags might exist as part of those proposals. That's where my gut is. If I had to, truth serum back against the wall, make a decision, that's what I would say. Like,
One thing I kind of worry about is where will we go? And for us to move into a industrial complex on Spears Road or whatever that's got space for us, it's not to me, not a homey or comfortable church community. It's just a space. So my concern is, where will we go? Like, how can we find a place that will suit all of us?
Well,
And
sorry, go ahead.
No, it's fine. I'm good. I'm done.
Well, remember that we are getting $7.5 million if we go with this sell. And we may find another place where we reside for a little bit, and then again, develop that property so that it works for us. It's not that we're going to sell this location and just find an empty building to house us, but we're going to make it work for us. We've got the money to do that, and maybe have housing on it again. I don't know. I don't know what the other place would look like.
Don't forget, Glen Abbey's offered to host us for however long we need, apparently.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
We wouldn't even have to necessarily buy another place or rent one. Maybe we just, live on their couch for a while.
Which would give lots of time to think about or to figure out what to do. And also, even if you are in somewhere on Spears Road or something, we are going to, whatever we do, renovate.
Yeah.
So we can make it comfortable and homey and, or whatever is needed for today's world to feel welcoming.
Okay, I'm hearing
It will
from
not be a- it
everybody
would
that
not
we
be a
want to
church
sell.
with stained glass windows in all likelihood.
Yeah, no, probably not.
No.
But I'm getting from everybody that we're thinking about the south side. Am I right?
That would be my leaning.
I do agree with Jeff that to do a joint venture, it's only going to get messier once you enter into it, right? So if you're not feeling 100% going in and there's any reservations, it seems like it's challenging.
Lots of challenges, yeah.
I look at it the same way I've thought about the potential partnerships with other organizations all along, which is like nothing at this point has me completely sold on either of the proposals and the exposure is limited, like granted, like I don't have a history or experience in dealing with any of this. But we haven't heard people like Dave and David come and say like, this is an insanely great proposal. Like we see these all the time, and this one makes a ton of sense, right? Like their messaging seems to be more cautionary. I don't love the idea of getting into business with someone that I don't trust 100% of the way up front. And maybe that's just the risk averse. Like I guess I tend to be more risk averse, right?
One of the questions I had was, how much work is this for the board or for key people in the congregation who step up to be part of the joint venture for a long period of time?
Yeah, I mean,
And do we have the skill sets and the energy to become members of the joint venture? Now, David Chong said, hey, they do a lot of the legwork, but they expect to be able to come back and meet with people and keep asking questions. And if that group has changed significantly from today to 6 months to 2 years from now, that's an aspect that's important to consider.
right. Like, are any of us willing to lock into 5 to 7 year commitment? I know I'm not. Like, I don't have the time to be doing any of this now. Like this is fabricated time in my schedule. So I certainly don't have the ability to spend the next 7 years coming to weekly meetings or more. Like, I just don't and I don't think any of us do, right? Like, and if that's, Carolyn makes a good point. We don't have a whole crew of volunteers behind us we have a lot of people who are willing to say, we trust you to make the decisions, to have the conversations, to do what's needed for St. Paul's, but we don't have a ton of people who are saying, I want to be part of that, or I have 5 years to give. So
do people feel we need to talk to David Chong? Because he's telling me right now that he's available.
Yes.
What?
Sure.
Yeah,
Why not?
yeah,
just to understand more of what's involved, period. Yeah.
What do they get if we sell? Don't they get a percentage of that?
Who?
TCF, because it's through their broker,
I
right? Or-
forget. They do get something. I
Oh.
don't know what it is.
Okay. I'm just pointing out they may have some additional motivations for us to sell, but anyway, it's fine.
Do we also have to pay TCF once we make a next decision, more money? Which we don't have to pay them? Like, we don't have any more money to pay anybody.
I asked a question like that, didn't I, Deborah? I'm trying to remember what that was.
Yeah, you asked. Okay,
kind of-
just send him the
I know we owe them another $8,000 momentarily. And that pretty much depletes our GICs.
If I
So-
remember right, and I'm not positive, but this stage 2 money is what we owe now. And the next stage would actually be the percentage cut that they get from whatever happens out of it.
Okay,
That's my recollection.
that would be better.
Yeah, my question was like, do they come along? Are they part of the joint venture and help us? And Dave Harder's comment was, at some point it switches to billable hours, right? But when I
Yes.
said, hey, for developing our mission and all, like, we're not just done with you guys because we make a choice. And it sounds like that's not the case. I just needed to refresh. I didn't get a specific answer, but I got a reassuring one.
Is he?
We
he's
have
in
to
a-
understand, yeah, like billable hours at 150 an hour gets to be pretty pricey very quickly. So we would have to.
He's in the waiting room. Would you like me to let him in?
Sure.
Sure, yeah, we'll talk about offers.
Hi, David.
Hi, Deborah. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Sorry, I'm sitting here in the dark.
Well, last
better?
minute invite, so that's okay.
Oh, I turned on a lamp for you.
We just came together tonight to kind of hash through what it looks like to go with the sell or to further explore a joint venture.
Sure.
Yeah, and it's fair to say that at the moment, people are feeling like the energy required and the commitment, long-term stuff to see a joint venture through feels daunting compared to the alternative of selling. So thought you might speak to that a bit.
Yeah, I mean, I completely understand where you're coming from. There's pros and cons of each scenario, obviously. The joint venture, though, there's so much unknown. There's just so much uncertainty with regards to, the very essence of a joint venture, with one proponent being the land contributor and not looking to play an active role as really utilizing the equity that's built up into the land itself, further the development process. My only caution and my only concern, if I'm giving you counsel, is we don't know what can be achieved there. And every developer will want to get their hands on that land and try to encumber that with some form of credit facility that they can start utilizing towards the development application itself, the development cycle. So, it could be structured in such a way where they don't achieve everything that they say they are, and maybe we're left in a situation where we haven't, I guess, fulfilled what we thought could be had at the end of the day. So that is a risk. With the sale process, I mean, it's a little bit cleaner in the sense that we're going to carve off a certain value, and then we get to utilize those funds in a manner that, is a little bit more transparent, because if we sell for X, you're either going to purchase or lease a new facility for X, and then you're going to create some form of an annuity for yourselves to have recurring revenue thereafter. So, strictly from a number standpoint, without the semantics of what's involved, that would certainly be a little bit easier in my eyes. And, yes, there's going to be some work involved with site selection and looking at a new facility, but to me, it's a lot less cumbersome than the joint venture process. But at the end of the day, it's really what you guys are comfortable with and where you want to head down that road, right? So at this moment, I mean, yeah, you would certainly have to form a committee that would be active on the JV side to meet with the developer and to kind of discuss at a very high level what role you want to play moving forward. And the word of caution is, the less of a role you play, the more the developer sees that's money going in their pocket, so to speak. That's just the essence of the model, right? So if you were saying, we're going to hire this component ourselves and manage this process ourselves, it would be a little bit different. But usually that is what people are looking for on the development side, is a situation where someone's contributing the land, they get to, you know, sort of tap into the equity there and move forward in that manner. So we could be years away. We have no idea what this group is going to do. You know, it really depends on your appetite for how involved you want to be, what your risk level or appetite is moving forward as well. So I don't I don't know if I gave you a clear answer in terms of what is better, but I feel like the sale it's a little easier. I would want to imagine as well that on any joint venture, it's going to be very hard for a developer to give us the land value that Melrose has given us for the sale option upfront. I think what would be typical is, you know, we might derive that value later on in the process after entitlements, but you know, we have the luxury with a sale to carve that off up front, if that makes sense. If you have questions, let me.
We have one offer to purchase at this point.
Yes, we have one offer. We had one from Annette Gilgan. If you guys recall, that was probably last year, I imagine.
Oh, like for
It was
4 million.
January or November?
You know, that might have been almost a year ago.
Yeah, I
Or,
want to say it was like last summer. Like
Was it last? Yeesh,
I
geez, yeah.
somewhere in that neighborhood. Like it was a while
Okay.
ago.
I have the contract. Yeah, I believe it was probably last summer or early fall. So I know that she was still interested, but I think at the price level that Melrose came in at, I don't think there's going to be a lot of interest from her. But so we have the one offer that came in for the sale. It has expired because the irrevocable has come and gone, but I'm in communication with Melrose. They're very interested in moving forward. And I just told them, my communication to them has just been that we simply need more time because we weren't really considering a sale. So we're just trying to wrap our heads around what that looks like. And Deborah, as I mentioned, we had gone back to them and asked them that, you know, we don't want to vacate in 60 or 90 days or whenever they're hoping to close. We're looking to stay there for a period of time. They're open to that. So, you know, I don't believe they're going to achieve anything that they're going to achieve anything within the first year or 2 years. So I think what will happen is they can probably sign a lease agreement with us for 12 months and then maybe an extension afterwards. And that would allow them to, you know, kind of get to work on the development process for what they envision there, but it would give us some time to, you know, understand what our objectives are moving forward from a facility, whether it be a lease or a purchase again, and maybe time to assemble with the different partner organizations that we're looking to house under our roof. So the only thing that they had mentioned was they didn't want to get into a situation where there were any residential tenancies, because I think the regulations around that would just prove a little bit more cumbersome. So I think that was really their only
What do you
concern.
mean? What are you saying there?
For the Mons area, if we were to have a residential tenant, or if Melrose were to sign a residential tenancy agreement, I guess at the end of the day, to get rid of somebody, so to speak, is a lot tougher than if it were on the commercial side where we sign a 12-month lease. There's just there's a lot of entitlements that tenants have on the residential side
Right.
that you know, don't really favor the landlords.
Is that referring to our manse, for example, that's what that's talking about? Yeah, okay.
That's right.
Yeah.
So
So
if the
that-
conference,
The person who's living in the manse right now, the ideal thing would be for that to end in December. And the fact that we know that now is helpful.
yes, so ideally that that tenancy agreement would end whenever they close on the property.
So
So provide
sooner, possibly.
potentially sooner, or if you guys want a longer close, we could negotiate that as well. And however long you need, I think they're open to discuss. You know, I believe the reason why they were trying to get this sort of sooner than later was because of the other church that they're closing on downtown Oakville. So I think they probably thought there were some economies there for them to approach a city at the same time on both sides, but
So I'm thinking that Kent would probably speak as a trustee and consider the
tenant.
looming, the tenant, but the looming repairs and costs for some of those repairs that they've been juggling. We're sure. Yeah, so that's what he would bring up. I'm not sure he would think this was a bad.
I don't think so either. And the tenant is very much aware of the fact that she is living on borrowed time and that we can
Mhm.
terminate the lease within whatever the legal period of time is. So it would not be a surprise to her. And we don't want to do the repairs.
so at this point, are you thinking more sale than joint venture?
I think a few of us are leaning that way, yes.
I
Do we
am,
want
and
a
that,
show of hands, like just kind of consensus, hot or cold? Like, how are you feeling? Are you feeling cool on selling or warmer on selling?
Jeff, did you want to say something first before we?
oh, it's just like, I'm considering all the different factors, and I think what going back to the question that you've asked a couple of times, Deborah, like, is this the right location for us to live out the mission? And and not necessarily knowing what would come of a joint venture and not having maybe the people resources on our side to be actively a part of that, to see it, to maximize what it could be. And then I just come back to, like, are we really just at the point where we want to, like, hang on to this idea of a joint venture because we're so stubborn about wanting to stay on this same property, and for what? Like, and I that's going to sound awful to some people within the congregation, but I think what we've been clear about all along, and what we were clear about with them, meaning the rest of the congregation, and what we heard back from them, was that this location is not the church, right? Like, it was for a long time, but that the spirit of the church can be lifted and put somewhere else. And the idea of selling and then having some security up front to as David kind of pointed out, like, we would chunk off, we would kind of know, right? Like, you're securing the future now of St. Paul's, and that is appealing to me, I have to admit, because the risk of getting into one of these partnerships or joint ventures with, I just feel like that's
buying a
so
house together.
it's just so far out of our, like, I'm sorry, but who are we to think that we can get in? Like, I'm not someone that has any kind of expertise in this area, and no one else has put their hand up to be like, I could be an active and, like, active part of ensuring that this joint venture becomes all that it can be. Like, I just don't, the idea of not selling seems so much more unrealistic to me at this point, like, as I think through all these things. So I'll say that I would say I'm hot on the idea of selling, if we're using a temperature scale.
Me too.
And this isn't a formal vote. So if you don't
No.
have, like, a temperature check,
it's
like,
no
there's
vote.
but I am more convinced now that is the smartest thing to do, and that is the right thing to do. And that is yes, the messaging behind that is going to be challenging, but it's the right thing to do for the future of St. Paul's and for our ability to be who we want to be and to live out our mission, and I do think there's something to the effect of, like, some of these partnerships that we're exploring with these organizations, having those come together in a third party location that isn't currently ours. I think maybe it helps in building some of those partnerships and establishing some of that trust that we don't necessarily feel is being built all that quickly with some of these groups, right? I think they still see us as the quote owners, and I
Good
can
point.
understand that that's a difficult kind of place to get past for some of those groups,
Yeah.
right?
So even the other churches, like someone said,
Yeah.
why don't we amalgamate with Glen Abbey and then move up there? And then the other side is, well, why doesn't we amalgamate with Glen Abbey and then them come to us? So if you've got a totally different
'Cause
location,
both want to be seen as the winner in that
Yes.
amalgamation, right?
Yeah.
And
if you
it's
have a
just like,
totally different location, then it's neutral. It's not
yeah.
yours or ours. Right?
You're on neutral ground. And I think
Yeah.
if I'm being the outside party, just offering you business counsel in terms of there's no emotions for me. If I'm just looking at, from a missional standpoint, you can achieve that anywhere. So any new location that you pick, you're going to carry forward with your mission. But from a business standpoint, if I'm a numbers guy, so not that I should only look at the numbers, but I do think of the numbers based on, the situation that you're in and the very essence of the exercise, the predicate for us being here. And I think that if you are able to carve off a certain value present day and create certainty for your future on an annual basis, where you take away that financial constraint of ceasing to exist, I think that's a pretty good outcome, right? So if I'm just looking at the numbers, what they've offered allows you to do a whole heck of a lot, and I think it takes away the potential pitfalls of a joint venture. Not to downplay it, but again, I do have some concerns with some of these parties. Like Leader Lane has not replied to my email. I don't know if they replied to you, Deborah, separately for the site tour. But I have a suspicion they know that we found out about their site that was for sale in Oakville. And it's just all those things that and even this other group, there was a bankruptcy in the past. So you just want to be careful, right? You just want to be careful, and you don't want to put yourself in a situation that's worse, right? There's no reason for that. And if we didn't have any options and you didn't have any potential suitors on a sale basis, then it's a different story. But so yeah, that's my 2 cents.
David, if we decide that we want to sell, we have to get congregational approval and the church region's approval before we can sign any documents.
Mhm.
Will we have more details, like if we to share with the congregation in the region before we have to present it to them, like how long we can stay on the property and that kind of thing?
So in the past, what we've done before anything is binding, what we've recommended is that you maybe sign back a conditional offer. So what they put forward to us, the letter of intent or the offer to purchase, what we could sign back to them, we could make that conditional upon approval from the congregation and any regulatory bodies that need to be informed and give us subsequent approval. So we can have something that is non-binding, but in essence, it shows them some good faith that we're moving forward and asking legitimate questions in regards to what it is this is going to look like. So if we sign back to them, for example, and we say we want to stay here for 12 months as a tenant, we'll pay you X per square foot over whatever the size that we deem we're going to keep. I don't think they really care about a rental stream. It's just something notional that we're paying. So if we sign back and say we're going to be a tenant of yours for 12 months with a further right to renew, and it's conditional, I think that would be my recommendation. And then that kind of keeps the process moving along, and it's non-binding, right? So there's nothing really, if you're allowed to do that, I'm not sure, but I don't see any reason why you couldn't if it were non-binding and conditional in nature upon the subsequent approvals. So it really depends on your appetite to further that discussion with them. But my recommendation would be, if you're interested in that we go back to them formally in a non-binding way.
Right. Okay.
And I would think we would send the region an email or like in the morning, or tonight even, just to say, hey, heads up, if you've got time for a call, we have a call, right? So that the region is also right in step with us.
And then ideally, when you're ready, we can put together something with the salient points of the offer itself that we can present to the congregation, or you can present to the congregation, just outlining all of the key terms and conditions involved with the disposition. So, and then we'll know that once we're going back and forth with Melrose.
Anybody have any more questions for David?
Not now.
No, that it's been extremely helpful.
Yeah, thank you,
to
David,
have
for
you
coming on at
hop
such
on.
late
Oh.
notice.
My pleasure. And feel free, you have my cell number. Just anytime there's questions, just anyone can give me a call and just shoot the breeze. Whenever there's questions, just let me know.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. Have a good night.
Okay, good night, David.
Take care. Bye-bye.
So I just have a few things that didn't want to say in front of David, but just one, this assumption that we had this steady stream of income because of all this money that we now have. The thing is, we don't have all this money, do we? It's like
We
nobody's
would.
giving us
Oh,
the whole sale of the property. We would have to negotiate what we actually would see of that money, right?
yes.
In there, yeah. And the other thing is
Yeah,
that,
we are a very vibrant congregation, and if we
Yes.
tell the region that this is a sale in terms of a transition to another property,
yes,
yeah.
absolutely, but yeah, but that.
Doesn't the United Church of Canada own the property? Do they not get something out of the sale?
I think they
Yeah.
decide what they get, they decide what we get.
Again, if we were
awesome.
just selling it outright and disbanding as a congregation, then they
They
had
get it all.
total right to do everything with it. But if we can
Oh.
give them a good case as to having the money go with us wherever we go, then
Okay,
option
okay,
two.
that makes sense. Okay.
And just the other thing that I think we'd have to be sort of aware of is that going forward with a decision to sell the property may cause a portion of our congregation to go looking for another church within the next year. Because if they don't, like when there's a 5-year span, that they probably wouldn't think of it, but if they thought was a 1 year, that we may lose a portion of the population.
That's where I'd
Big
like to,
decisions, these big decisions are affecting people, and some of them, if they could be bothered, would go now, like,
and that's where I think having our ducks in a row, and yeah, summer's setting in, and I mean, like, I don't even have as much time as Deborah and I have together. But this is big, and this can be life-giving instead of sending people out the door if we handle it right. And so this is where I'm thinking we rekindle the conversation from the fall about what is our mission. Remember all that enthusiasm. Okay, we start being that now, like, whether it's the Pride Fest or, creating these partnerships. That might take a little bit of work, but I see that quite easily as simple work, just hitting the marks and keeping the fires going and keeping people tuned into why we're amazing rather than, oh, we're closing, right?
no, I think we have a good story. I don't think that will stop some portion of people from going elsewhere, just because they want a stability in their life. And if they're not going to have that stability with us, they may get it elsewhere, or they decide to ride out the year and then do whatever they're going to do.
I guess,
But I think our
You-
story is very good.
yeah, I think totally fair comment, Judy. I completely expect, regardless of the decision, I would expect some attrition.
So, yeah. It's
In the
okay.
case, in the scenario, that you're referencing, like if I was standing face to face with someone who was making that decision, my question to them would be, are you prepared then to commit to the next 5 to 7 years and be an active part of a joint venture. Like,
Yeah, right.
you're not stepping up.
You want to be on
part
the
of-
committee?
Exactly. Like it's, there
Yeah.
comes a point where like, I understand that some people are going to be in that kind of situation. I think you said something to the effect of like, they'd be looking for stability, right? For the next several years. Well, we're making this decision to achieve some
stability.
sense of stability. So,
Yeah.
I think there's also the message of, well, go talk to Glen Abbey, who we're talking to, go talk to St. John's, who now we're talking to, go talk to Trinity, who now we're talking to. Like, this is all across, and we're trying to do something good here. And if people still want to leave and their energy is like that, that isn't energizing for where we're headed. So we do pastoral care, we do wonderful support and connection as best we can, and trust that our spirit moves us forward in a healthy way.
Agreed, for sure.
Yes.
So I'm conscious that this isn't, I don't think we categorize this as an official board meeting with both Kent and Harold gone. I don't know if we can make that
No.
decision tonight.
No, I don't think
No,
so.
not at all.
Um,
They may have very different
That's true.
opinions.
We're our quorum, but
Yeah.
yeah, their voices.
And Allison
Yeah.
and Jen you have not said that this is where your mind is at this. moment.
Allison, you're muted.
Sorry. Yeah,
You don't have to
I'm
agree.
in favor of selling.
Yeah, I think Allison's maintained all along that the location, she's indifferent. Like that's not to speak for you, Allison, but I assumed that was your opinion because of the things that you've said, right?
Yeah, and I mean, if one of those JVs were just like, wow, okay, yes, I'm 100%, this is so exciting, I can see how this would all work, then I might feel differently about redeveloping our land, but I didn't feel that excitement. It was interesting, but I didn't feel that excitement from reading.
Plus,
them.
I think it's pretty clear that the people who are our consultants think we should sell. That is what I think. I mean,
It's,
whether they can say it outright or not, that the joint ventures simply have too many unknowns. That
Yeah, there's
can-
a lot of risk, right? A lot of
There's
risk.
a
and I
lot of
think that-
risk.
The one thing that I couldn't get was that this other one, that the second one we got, they want to put two 3-story buildings on the east side of the parking lot, but
Mhm.
that would take the whole parking lot on that side.
They were gonna do underground parking.
Yeah, but the buildings are gonna be there and you can't go into the ravine because we don't own that part.
yeah, they'd take
To
down.
me,
the-
it was very not, I could see it in the back of the property, but where they suggested, it was hard to see that one.
Maybe they would be some of those 5-foot wide skinny homes that they build in alleyways.
Oh,
And
right. Yeah.
For my 2 cents, like I wouldn't say, I think I'm so sorry, I'm just joining the party here.
That's okay.
But like, I'm not pro joint venture, but I'm just not pro sell either. That's sort of where my head is. But I think that he was super clear and it makes sense. It's uncertainty, like there's too many, like the joint venture is not working. I just am struggling with this whole trust. Like I wish that we had the survey results, and I know
Yes, I was
Deborah
gonna
and Carolyn, you have been having these wonderful interactions, and yeah, like I'm not coming to the table. Like I'm having a hard time like coming to any of these initiatives that are happening, especially when they fall on the weekends. It's tricky. But like, so you guys are experiencing those relationships, but I
No,
just
we're
read
not.
these things on Slack and it just seems like everyone's kind of dragging their heels. So it's hard to see
Yeah, I agree.
all coming together.
Plus- plus,
That's where my brain is.
Jen, we're not experiencing the relationships either. We've not met them. That was going to be my final thing, is that we need to see.
But I think if you send a
what they have
survey out and they
responded.
say, please have it back in a week, you would think, oh, like this is exciting. We better get the
Yeah.
survey back so they know but that's just the way my brain works, right? I wouldn't want to. But
So-
it takes time, and it sounds like we're gonna have time.
Basically, we
exactly.
have to look
I
out for
do like his
us.
plan. I like his plan of like, you could ask for a lease and like, all of that made complete sense to me. So it was good to have him come into the call. It's just seems, I don't
He
know.
says he's a numbers person. Well, I'm a numbers person. We have to pay a lease. What are we supposed to pay that with? But anyway, that's just an aside.
I mean,
But I
over the
think-
summer, this is the way Deborah and I have been talking, because like I'm on deck here, is we keep making friends with these potential partners and any others, right? Like maybe Wesley will want to talk to us and they'd be the big sister with all the money. I don't know, but just make friends. We keep talking to the different churches. That's a long-term thing. We make a choice soon, probably on this, and that we have to talk to the congregation, and we have to be inspired by our vision. So that's going to be a big part of worship and any activity over the summer, coming back in September. Hey, this is who we are. This is why we bother to show up on a Sunday. And this is what we're building. And those are all separate pieces that, you know, we just dabble at them as we go over the summer with your energy fully in mind. Like, I totally get it, folks. And I'll do what I can. And I feel like David is close by to support us. All of those things can happen separately, and it leaves us with some freedom to choose.
Yeah, sure.
I still would like to hear, as I say, we've not even met the potential partners. So I would at least like to hear what they have to say in writing. I mean,
You
something
have
that.
met them. You've met them at the town hall. You've met them at the meetings at the church. If you were
I
there.
wasn't even here for the beginning of the year, so I don't know that I
Yeah,
met.
Judy and I missed that. Judy and I
I
missed.
met Kendra,
Yeah.
no, yeah, but I have not met Jody. I might have seen her one day when you were going for a walk with her. And that's
Right,
the first time
and
I've seen her.
I will say that Jody and Andrea almost feel that we've been dragging our heels, so. You know, so it's a.
But
And the
I
other,
think we have to look out for us first, I think. You know, if this is what we want to do and we want to move forward and they want to join us, then that's awesome. That's what they want to do. But I think we have to look out for us first, I think.
My sense is that relationship needs to blossom out of real relationship and interaction and shared purpose, not out of timelines and
Right.
Not out of timelines, but it
And
needs to
expectations.
blossom out of, we need to plan to get together, that we all get together in person and meet.
Yeah.
And we
And
need
if
to
it
do
doesn't
again.
happen, that says something about both sides' dedication to that relationship, right? Like if it's not happening, that's an important message too. So
Well, I assume it's up to us to organize a get together. They're not going to organize a get together because they're coming from a very different perspective.
well,
But we
and
need to
we
organize it.
also need to be very aware, especially Halton Black Voices and PFLAG have even fewer resources than we do. They have very few resources. I got an email from Janelle this week. Because I had asked her for, she sent me an email asking if we're going to do something, that there be Black or Indigenous designers, architects, developers contacted to be a part of this as well.
Mhm.
And then she sent me a whole list of people, whole list of suggestions. So they're not completely out of the picture. I think they still have interest and want to be a part of it. They just don't have the capacity to keep coming and doing stuff here, right? So just
Not keep coming and doing stuff. Part of it is just one of the questions is, what do you think a partnership is? Like, what in your mind? Like right now, I don't know what that partnership is. What we jointly, if we form a new charity, then we're all.
right.
towards
But
this
they
charity.
We
Right.
almost need a
Investment.
project manager, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
any large project needs somebody who's on first base to coordinate everything. We don't, and Deborah and Carolyn can't be that.
No.
We almost need a project man, and it's unfortunate. I mean, like, that's literally my job, but
Yeah, you have a job.
I have a job.
Yep.
I have a job too. Good night, guys.
Good night, Jen.
All right.
Hi, Jen.
Hi, Jen.
Bye, Matt.
Mwah.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go soon too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
So,
We need-
so what I'm thinking is that we respond to the region in the morning and say, hey, we're feeling very warm about the selling versus a joint venture. And we are talking. I think we need to have an official board meeting to consider any, like, what's holding us back from feeling unanimous. I think unanimous is important.
Yep.
Obviously, that's likely going to happen without Deborah here, so as much communication as happens in the meantime, but she and I have talked at length about this. And we need to consider how soon a conditional offer, I wrote down a couple things. The conditional offer, like, is David seeing us sending that back this weekend or by next weekend? Do we have the region on board for that?
It's not so much, he called it a conditional offer. The fact is, they're the ones making the offer to us. We are sending back a conditional
Reply.
to their offer, right?
Yeah.
That's.
So these are different threads that we're pulling at the same time to kind of come down to a congregational meeting and a decision.
Mhm.
And Deborah and I said by the end of June would be clean for attendance and for participation and people's awareness, but I don't know. I don't know how we wait till September.
Oh, we can't,
I don't think we should.
no. Any momentum we have, we will lose.
Yeah,
The only thing is, if you're gonna do it at the end of June, you have to announce the annual meeting Sunday,
Mhm.
or you do it in July.
Or you announce an annual meeting that you then cancel.
Yeah.
Like, doesn't have to
You
happen.
also
but
need
that's what's
somebody
required.
to, like, if you're talking about Zoom and everything, you need somebody to know the tech.
oh, boy.
I know lots of it, but I don't know it as well as you, so hey,
No.
tutor, or yes, tutor,
No.
mentor.
And you know, a possible date when I'm back at July 23rd, but that might be too long to wait.
Maybe somebody from TCF should join us and maybe one of them knows how to do it too. So we can ask. We can ask. I know how to do a lot of stuff. We'll just check in on that.
Zoom is just tricky. Like, live stream's easy now, but Zoom is trickier.
Yeah. Mm.
So what's next, folks?
Well, the next is letting whoever you're talking to in the region know what we are leaning towards.
All right, Deborah and I can do that.
Yeah, just
Tonight?
talking through with them.
Mhm.
And then
Harold
also
and Kent
folks
need
to-
to listen
yeah.
to this.
need to, well, and you need to have an official board meeting date.
Yeah. And that should be sooner rather than later, obviously. Um,
So next week. And if we can circulate some specifics ahead of that, that might condense it so it's an hour.
Yeah,
Well, next Wednesday or Thursday. Oh, Thursday's choir. Oh, no, choir's
No.
done, right?
Yeah, fire's done.
I'm okay either day.
So would it be on Zoom too? Yeah.
That's the 14th or 15th, right?
We pop that up on Slack right away, so our wayward folks who are celebrating anniversaries can and other things can weigh in.
Yeah.
We
'cause they
discovered
need-
that Harold
need
and
to
Judy
listen
and
to
Tom
this.
and I were married the same year,
Oh,
1975. So in 2 years, we will both be 50.
Ooh,
Yeah. So it's only just 48 now.
oh,
it's nothing.
spring.
So
Okay,
you want to
so
do the
Are we
Wednesday?
aiming for Wednesday?
Okay,
Well,
let's do
because
Wednesday.
Kent and Harold aren't here, you could say we decided on Wednesday unless
Unless they can't come.
Does
yeah.
anybody can't do Thursday?
No, I could do Thursday.
So you could throw both days to Harold and Kent and see what
Yeah.
works.
Okay.
And this Zoom thing, Deborah, are you able to send it to them?
Yeah. I'm gonna put
Or
it up on
something.
YouTube and I'll send them the link.
Okay,
I would say it's easier to say Wednesday, and if they have a problem, we could bump it. It's easier than.
Thursday
going
is
back.
an
I'm saying,
alternate.
say Wednesday, but say Thursday is an alternate if you can't make it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And beyond that, ask Kendra, she has had any response.
Yeah, okay.
I've got an email drafted for her, actually.
Okay,
Maybe Carolyn, you should send it if I'm gonna be away.
Yeah, to Kendra. Yeah, okay.
I agree that we obviously want answers back from these partners. I actually
Yeah.
separate that now from this
Yep.
decision. Like, I
Yeah.
don't, like, to
It
me,
doesn't
it,
matter,
Yeah,
does
I'm
it?
with
to
you,
me,
Jeff. Yeah.
it plays like, we want the
Yeah.
answers back as soon as possible because we want to know how interested people are, but whether we decide to do a joint venture or we decide to sell
Yes.
and do something else,
Yeah.
we can still go through the process of trying to identify who the real potential partners are. Like it,
yeah, yeah.
Sorry, was
And
that-
announce a-
Was that for 7 o'clock on Wednesday or Thursday or, I'm sorry, I missed. I missed
Most,
it.
probably 7 o'clock either day.
What time works for you, Allison?
7 is better because it's earlier.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
if it's Wednesday, I'll have to join 10 or 15 minutes late just because I'll be at the pool with Abby until 7, but
Mhm.
like I'm happy to join late. If like I was here at this conversation, I don't anticipate the vote is going to happen in the first 10 minutes.
We'll make sure it doesn't.
He's gonna come and we'll be like, oh, we're all done.
Oh, done. Yeah, see ya.
All right, so 7 o'clock on Wednesday. We're gonna send a message to the region right away, Deborah. I'll email Kendra about the surveys, but that's a moot point. It's important, but it's
Yeah,
separate.
it is. Yeah, we need to keep that going. Yeah.
Yeah. Are there any other pieces? Oh, we're talking about finding time with St. John's. That was, what day did you say? Tuesday?
Kent had sent out Tuesday, Thursday, or Friday. Tuesday,
On
there's
Friday.
and Tuesday, there's a ball game.
Oh, like a Pandas ball game?
The only ball game that matters.
That's right.
I know. Okay, so this doesn't have to be the whole group.
And
I
what
can
was the
make
meeting
time
with
those
St.
evenings.
John's for?
Just to
Pardon
talk with,
Just-
with John, who's the past chair, and Fred, who's the current chair, just to talk.
And what nights were
Just-
those?
Tuesday, Thursday, or Friday is what Kent threw at them. Which makes me wonder if he's not available on Wednesday.
Does sound that way, doesn't it?
It
Great-
wasn't
great
available
point.
tonight.
Well,
What is
because he called
Kent
in
up to
Wednesday.
on Wednesdays? Well, he says he
Maybe
got
he
called
got
into work, but I.
did.
Well,
Go check, Jeff. Go check.
I'm gonna do a little sleuthing.
Well, then Wednesday or Thursday if.
Want to say Thursday for the board meeting then, and we'll see about Tuesday for St. John's.
If Kent needs, yeah, somebody,
Okay.
I could go with Kent if need be on the Tuesday.
Jeff, let me ask the question that you sent me in a text. About this is totally offside. Jeff just checked with me about the contract for Tracy.
Well, I
Does
just
that
sent that
mean-
to, I sent that to everyone in Slack. My intent was not to do
Okay.
it in this meeting because I know people want to get off.
I
the call.
just don't know if everybody, if it has to be a motion. That's all I want to know. Because if it has to be a motion, then it has to come out in the board meeting, but if it
You
can
do
just
have
be an
to
okay,
approve,
then
it
we
does
can do
have to
it.
be, the board has to approve her contract.
Okay, so it has to be a motion.
Yeah.
Okay, so
So
we
can
can
we-
do that next week.
Can we also do that next week then?
Yes.
Yeah, when everybody's, yeah. That was my question. I wasn't sure if it, like you said, is a blessing or is it just a motion, but we can motion it and pass it next week.
Okay.
Okay, good.
And we'll try and have as much detail out ahead of time so that when we get together Thursday night, it's right, Thursday. It's
Thursday.
like clean and we're getting down to good discussion on.
So
what we-
yeah, just an agenda helps.
Yeah, I think so.
Thanks for the late notice and gathering all together tonight, folks. I know it was. Carolyn and I talked Tuesday and said, we need to talk to the board, so.
No, it's good that we did,
Yeah,
because
we're-
otherwise it just hangs in the air, so that's great.
Yeah, we have to move forward on this stuff.
Yeah, we have to keep going, whether we are all here or not, we have to keep going as best we can.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
Okay, and just a heads up, Tuesdays will
It's
probably
okay.
be the day where I'm diving in and calling on people and everything, not Monday and not Sunday afternoon, but.
So Thursday, so we'll go for Thursday.
Yeah.
And just so you know, the Blue Jays won, just saying. I didn't see it, it's on my phone, see?
I thought there were no other ball games.
No, well, there is a few. Okay, guys, so let's hope Thursday works.
Okay,
Thank you.
good night.
Good night.
Good night, everyone. Thanks.
Thanks.